The United States Department of State recently reaffirmed that Washington's position on Turkey's participation in the F-35 fifth-generation fighter jet program remains unchanged. This decision resurfaced after questions from various parties regarding the possibility of Ankara rejoining the program amidst global political and security dynamics. The U.S. Department of Legislative Affairs issued an official statement stating that the government remains consistent with its previous policy regarding the F-35 in Turkey. This decision stems from Turkey's acquisition of the Russian S-400 air defense system, which is considered inconsistent with NATO's security interests, and the F-35's technological compatibility. Washington believes that the use of the S-400 within NATO, particularly in conjunction with the F-35, poses significant security risks to the alliance system. This risk primarily relates to the potential disclosure of sensitive F-35 fighter jet data to Russia, the S-400 developer. The United States reaffirms that compliance with U.S. law remains the primary guideline in making policy decisions regarding the export and procurement of strategic defense equipment. In this regard, Ankara's acquisition of the S-400 is seen as violating the Countering America's Adversaries through Sanctions Act. Nevertheless, Washington continues to emphasize that defense relations with Turkey remain crucial to the United States' strategic interests. Turkey has long been a key member of NATO and plays a vital role in various international security missions. Ankara's participation in alliance operations from the Balkans to the Middle East has been crucial to regional stability. For the U.S., maintaining relations with Turkey is a key pillar of NATO's strategy to counter global threats. However, sharp differences over the S-400 and the F-35 remain the biggest stumbling block in the two countries' defense relationship. The U.S. has repeatedly offered alternative solutions, including the Patriot defense system, but Turkey has consistently chosen the S-400 option. Ankara's decision has frustrated Washington, which sees it as a threat to NATO's defense integration. The U.S. State Department, in an official statement, emphasized that Washington's legal and policy positions will not change without concrete action from Ankara. The U.S. State Department's statement was in response to a letter written by 40 members of Congress, led by Representative Chris Pappas, to the Secretary of State. In other words, to return to the F-35 program, Turkey would have to remove the S-400 system entirely from its territory. However, Ankara has maintained the system as part of its national defense strategy. This suggests that the stalemate between Washington and Ankara over the S-400 issue is likely to persist for a long time. Nevertheless, both countries are still striving to maintain open lines of communication on defense and security. U.S. officials have also emphasized that cooperation in other areas, including the modernization of Turkey's F-16 fleet, can continue. This way, Washington still provides room for bilateral relations to avoid a complete standstill due to the F-35 issue. For Turkey, the U.S. decision not to allow it to return to the F-35 program is considered unfair. The Turkish government insists that the S-400 purchase was made due to the urgent need to strengthen its air defenses. Furthermore, Ankara believes that both NATO and the U.S. have failed to provide a quick solution that meets its security needs. Turkey also argues that as a sovereign nation, it has the right to choose the best defense system. However, Washington maintains that the decision cannot be separated from the implications for the NATO alliance. With the F-35 being the backbone of NATO's future air power, its technological integrity cannot be compromised. The U.S. government has consistently stated that this issue is not simply about an arms contract, but about collective security. The decision to remove Turkey from the F-35 program in 2019 is one of the clearest examples of how law and strategy are fused in U.S. foreign policy. Turkey previously served not only as a buyer of the F-35, but also as a production partner with defense industry contributions. With Turkey's removal from the program, its defense industry role was halted and transferred to other partners. However, the U.S. still recognizes Turkey's historical contributions to NATO and hopes the relationship can remain manageable. The latest statement from the U.S. State Department strikes a balance between a firm stance on the S-400 issue and recognition of Turkiye's importance. This reflects the dilemma Washington faces in managing its relationship with a strategic but unruly ally. Going forward, the future of the U.S.-Turkey defense relationship will depend heavily on Ankara's stance on the S-400. As long as the Russian air defense system remains in Turkey, Washington will undoubtedly remain firmly closed to the F-35 program. The United States' decision to maintain its position regarding Turkey's participation in the F-35 program demonstrates Washington's consistency in upholding defense laws and policies. The F-35 program is not just a fighter jet procurement project, but also a symbol of strategic collaboration between NATO countries in developing future air power. By excluding Turkey from the program, the U.S. wants to emphasize that the integrity and security of F-35 technology cannot be compromised. The Russian S-400 was the primary factor in cutting off Turkey's participation, as it was considered to have the potential to expose vulnerabilities in the F-35 system. The risk of sensitive data leaks, particularly related to stealth technology, and the F-35's communications network, was the strongest reason behind Washington's tough stance. In fact, Turkey was previously not only a buyer but also a production partner contributing to the global F-35 supply chain. Turkey's withdrawal from the program had significant repercussions, both for the defense industry and for Ankara's foreign policy. From NATO's perspective, this step was also intended to prevent incompatibilities in defense systems that could weaken the alliance's interoperability. The F-35 itself is seen as the backbone of future air power, so its use must be ensured to be secure from infiltration by adversaries. By closing the door to Turkey, the U.S. seemed to be sending a strong message to other allies not to make defense decisions that conflict with NATO interests. This decision prompted Turkey to accelerate its national fighter jet program, KAAN, as an alternative to dependence on the F-35. Thus, the F-35 issue is not simply a matter of rejection, but also a catalyst for the independence of the Turkish defense industry.